let's talk about the real estate market right now in the greater Seattle area. As you may have heard, we have a buyer's favored market right now, which we don't often see over here. And July was actually the third consecutive month that it was a buyer's market, at least on the east side. And what is considered a buyer's market is when we have 2 months of inventory or more at any given time. And July, we had 2.4 months of inventory, which is the highest supply that we've seen in 2.5 years and the highest for the month of July since 2011. But I do want to note that this shift is notable not due to falling demand, but due to a significant increase in supply. And you'll see that once I share my screen and start diving into the numbers. First, I want to show you a map real quick if you're not familiar with what all the East Side entails. So people, when they think of the East Side, generally Redmond, Bellevue, Kirkland, which that is the East Side. There's also a few other cities that are included in that. So we're looking at the East Side is right about, here down. We're including Mercer Island, just below here of Newcastle. We're including Issaquah, going down to the Snoqualmie area, and then just kind of back around to here. So it is a lot bigger of an area than I think people think of. And if you are looking at more specific area, I do have market stats that are broken down to more niche areas, but wanted to go over the East Side as a whole, as well as Seattle as a whole. And we're going to break it down to residential only, which is going to be like a standalone single family home, and then also condos, because the numbers differentiate so much. I prefer seeing them as 2 separate categories as opposed to one, just because for obvious reasons, a condo is a lot less than a house is. And I don't think they should be grouped in together when we have the opportunity to view them separately. So first we're going to start on the east side. So, greater Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland area, and we're going to go over residential homes. So as I mentioned before, we're seeing 2.4 months of inventory right now, which is quite a bit. If you look at, trends typically and this is just July year over year. But it's normally quite a bit less than that. But what is important to note, and kind of what I was saying, that it's not due to falling demand, just more inventory, is right here you can actually see. So this is the active listings right here in the dark blue, and then pending sales are the gray. And so we're seeing pending sales on par with what we've been seeing the last couple of years. Last year, for instance, we had 622 pending sales in the month of July. And this year we're at 585. So we're not far off. So it's not that people aren't buying. It's just that we got a lot of inventory. And then in terms of median closed sales price, we saw a 2% dip from last year. So we're down 2%. And the median closed sales price for July for the East Side was $1,580,000. And then I really like this, this page on here. So it shows you the average, days on market and sales in a month, and price change and stuff for homes that sold above list price, at list price, below list price, and then a price changed before sale. And so we're still seeing here that 19% of homes sold above list price. So there are homes that are being listed that are getting multiple offers. So if you're a buyer, you can be more picky right now, but you should be prepared to write an offer. You should have your pre-approval letter in hand when you're going out to see homes, because there's a chance that that perfect one comes on and it's not going to sit on the market for a while. It's going to go relatively quickly. So you do still need to be prepared, but you obviously are still in a lot of the other homes. You're able to have much more negotiating power and see a lot more homes, which is refreshing for buyers. We did see 37% of homes have a price change before sale, 26% went below list, and 18% sold at list price. So generally speaking, there's a lot of homes that are sitting for longer and going for less, but there are some that are still going quick. So make sure you still have your stuff together if you are actively looking to buy. All right, and let's go over to condos now. So for the East Side condos, we're seeing 3.5 months of inventory, which is a lot, especially compared to if you're looking at where we're normally at. Last year, we're at 1.8 months. And so that is quite a steep jump. But then again, if we look at pending sales, we're at 188 this year and 195 last year. So we're roughly the same amount of condos condos on the east side are still selling this year as, compared to last year, but our inventory is way, way up. And then with that, our median closed sales price is at $629,000, which was about a 0% change from this time last year. So not up, not down, just right around the same. And then if we look at this page again, we saw that 11% sold above list price, 44% had a price change, and then, some numbers in between here. And it is making sense that there were more condos with a price change and less condos selling above list price compared to residential homes on the east side, just given the sheer amount of inventory that we were seeing in condos on the east side compared to residential homes. And let's go into Seattle. So we're going to do residential first. I'll pull up the map real quick. Seattle's over here. If you're not familiar, normally most people know where Seattle is, then everything else is like, you gotta find it on a map. But this was east side, so we were talking over here. We've jumped over the lake and we're now in Seattle. Seattle residential. We are seeing 2.1 months of inventory, which is, still considered a buyer's market. A little bit less than the east side. And for pending sales, they're actually a decent chunk over where we were at this time last year. Last July, we had 539, and this July we saw 636. And we're surprisingly close in months of inventory compared to last year for Seattle, which we're seeing more of a discrepancy on the east side. But again, it's still a lot more than where you're typically seeing. And then in terms of median closed sales price, it went over $1 million for the first time for July, at $1,010,000, which is a 4% increase from this time last year. So that's actually looking, decently good for Seattle. 27% sold above list price, 29% had a price change before sale. And so we are seeing that there might be a little bit more competition in Seattle for some homes, but again, don't let that dissuade you if you're a buyer, because there's still 20% at list price, 24 below, and 29 price change before sale. So a lot of homes are sitting for a little bit, but there are some that are going quicker. And I just think that is so important to know, because some people are just sitting around a little bit. They think they have a lot more time than they do for certain homes. And communication with your agent, if you're a buyer, to the listing agent is huge. So having somebody who is going to communicate with you, but then also you need to communicate with your agent, because they're not going to know what you really like unless you tell them. And then condos. So we are at a whopping 4.4 months of inventory for Seattle condos. Pending sales are actually up from this time last year. Last year we were at 205 and we're at 240 this year. So again, condos are still selling. There is just a lot of inventory. And then in terms of median closed sales price, $550,000 is the median closed sales price for a condo in Seattle. And that is down 2% from this time last year. And then we saw 9% of condos sell above list price. 41% had a price change before sale. And so again, these numbers, they are tracking with, how much inventory there is. There is a ton of inventory. And so less are going for over, more are going for under, and having to adjust price before selling, which does make a lot of sense. I do want to go over just a little bit of, buyer behavior, as well as buyer tips and seller tips real quick. So buyers, for obvious reasons, have a lot more negotiating power right now than we normally are seeing, but they're also more selective and value driven now that there's not so much pressure to be outbidding multiple offers. When inventory hovered closer to 1 month of inventory, buyers were often willing to overlook flaws and waive contingencies, and today they're not, and that's big. For buyers, again, they have a lot more time, a lot more flexibility, but smart, well-priced homes are still moving quickly. So you need to stay focused and be ready to act if that home that you've been looking around for a while and you've had the opportunity to go see a lot of homes because there's so much on the market, but maybe that home that you love is one of those, Seattle condo 9%, that sold above list price. So there is a chance that perfect home is one that's going to generate a little bit more interest. And so you should just be ready. And maybe it's one that sold at list price, but there was other people that are interested in it. And so you might not have 2 weeks to sit around thinking about it. Whereas there's plenty of other homes that are going to hit the market that you're going to have a lot of time to, think about it and do your research and visit multiple times, which is great. But all I'm saying is if the right one comes on, you got to be ready. And then for sellers, move-in ready homes matter more than ever. Presentation and pricing are more critical now than they have been in a long time. Buyers are comparing so many more options. And so you don't want to give them a reason to walk away from your home. You want to give them a reason to keep coming back to it and thinking about it because it looks so nice and there's so much, value there, and it is priced well. Pricing is like, you have to be, on the dot with pricing. You don't want to walk away from any money, but if you price a little bit too high, buyers are going to be walking away from you and you're going to ultimately end up with less. I have a house we're prepping for the market right now, and it's just, get everything perfect. Right now it's get that pre-inspection done and fix things on that pre-inspection. If it needs new paint, get new paint. If it needs new carpet or carpet stretching or carpet cleaning, do it. If new sod would make the house pop for that first impression when they're driving up to it, get the new sod because it is worth the investment right now if you're trying to sell your hate. One other thing to note is interest rates. So we did see a dip in interest rates this past week. I hate to give numbers on a video because things can change by the time I post this. Not that it's the turnaround is taking a while, but interest rates, things fluctuate. But we're seeing a conventional 30-year fixed at about 6.5%, which is a lot. It's a bit lower than we've been seeing, which is exciting. I also got an email from one of the lenders that I refer clients to often with some good news this morning. And there's a high probability of a rate cut at the September Fed meeting, which is, again, it's not going to be like interest rates we're not seeing like 3% rates or anything like that, but there is a chance for things to get better. So if you're a buyer, talk with your lender, talk with your realtor, and if there's a way for you to get a little bit of a better rate to afford more of a home, that is great. Or maybe just less of a payment. That is also great. So something to keep in mind and something to be a little bit cautiously optimistic for the future. But that's a little bit on some tips on what the market is looking like. Again, if you are looking for more specific area, you want the same kind of market breakdown, but you're looking at just Bellevue or just, a certain neighborhood in Seattle, if you're looking on Mercer Island, wherever you're looking, I can give you that more niche breakdown. If you are a seller, I'm happy to provide you with a comparative market analysis to go over a little bit about, what are your neighbors selling for? What are those houses looking like? And what would your house be worth right now? So if you're interested in any of those things, please do not hesitate to reach out. My name is Chaffey Lakic. If you don't know me, I'm a realtor here in the greater Seattle area, and I have been for just about 7 years now, and happy to help you. Again, if you're buying or selling or relocating here, I would love to go over the different areas with you and take you around, hopefully when you come in town for a trip. All of my contact information is in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.